Joe Bui, the man behind CrossFit. Tell us something about yourself.
Well, obviously my name is Joe Bui, and I'm not the man behind CrossFit. The man behind CrossFit is Greg Glassman. I just happen to be one of the more, at this point, one of the more older names in the industry, as CrossFit in the Philippines, the local industry, started in around 2010, and I got into the scene around 2012. But at the time, I was just really practicing, or at least working out. But on the same year, I became a coach, and it's been about 8 years. So, things have propagated quite a bit since then, and I have not left the industry. I've progressed towards simply being a coach to a box owner. We call our facilities boxes, a gym owner, into primarily these days, it's really more of consultancy for coaching as well as business owners, for those who want to put up their own gym or put up their own program for either CrossFit or something related to that. I think in a gist, that's who I am as Joby, the CrossFitter.
Okay, so but Job, like I guess
Why don't you tell us your journey so far? Like a TLDR of
That's
your journey.
TLDR. No, that's fine. I'm
what's
fairly okay
TLDR?
with it.
What TLDR means?
Are you a millennial, Nikki, or what?
I'm not a
I'm just
millennial,
kidding.
man. I'm a yuppie.
Nikki is Nikki is an original hipster.
Yeah,
Not
So
that's
not a
true.
hip,
That's
not
true.
not a
yeah,
millennial though.
Yeah. So TLDR stands
yeah,
for
yeah,
too
yeah. No,
long
I
didn't
get you.
read. Yeah, too long didn't read, Nikki. Just so you know.
What?
Too long didn't
Oh,
read.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because when
Parang
there's like a
summary.
narrative
It's
that's
a
just too fucking long, nobody
Yeah,
wants to.
yeah,
Am I
yeah.
allowed to curse?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
So
Yeah.
it's like
you are, you
GG,
are, yeah.
good
Uh,
game.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Niche, like CrossFit
Niche,
niche.
yeah.
Okay, we're kind of going away from what's acceptable to that's already inappropriate. I'm
Anyway,
just
Don't
kidding.
okay.
worry.
Anyway.
I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna do the cut.
Okay, well, okay. So the long story short here is, so basically, soon after we graduated from high school, then we all moved on to college, and then we all started working. I found myself in the industry of food and beverage, and with the food and beverage industry, especially with what I was doing at the time, I was a pastry chef.
That's right.
It
You were one
was
of the first paleo guys, right?
Well, that was after when I started CrossFit already, but this was before CrossFit. It's just that when I was in the
Okay.
pastry industry, tendency is
Yeah,
you
the
do get
baking.
pretty big. Long hours, a lot of cigarette smoking, unhealthy lifestyle, eating all the time, and I ballooned. I believe my heaviest weight was around 230 pounds. And how I transitioned into CrossFit is actually very simple. I was going to the gym almost regularly, but it was very inefficient just because it's hard to motivate yourself. One day, my brother, or my eldest brother, Joms, he asked me if I wanted to try out a group class setting kind of thing. Now, it's not really for me, but because he wanted to do it with somebody he knew, I agreed. And so at the time, we even got a online coupon for like a cheaper membership. And so I started working out, or my first experience was in a CrossFit gym in the fort, or the army gym there. And I remember just being so out of shape that I did not even get past the warm up. After the warm up, I almost fainted, and I just went home. Then I remember the instructor saying, okay, you might want to take a few days rest. But my ego was so affected. I was so embarrassed. I came back the very next day and I said, I can do this. I can try. And I remember getting to the
Yeah,
rest of the workout, and all of
that's
my
been you,
classmates,
man,
yeah,
ever since.
yeah, all of my classmates were actually women at the time, females, and I could barely stand at the end, and they were all like, "Okay, is that it? Are we done?" And basically, it was like one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had. I mean, we can go into the backstories of how I was an athlete before, but we're just talking about CrossFit right now. And since it was such a humbling experience, I told myself, I want to be good at this. Like this is something new for me. I've never felt being at
Mhm.
the bottom of the food chain when it comes to something fitness related before. And
Yeah,
instead of
for sure.
being disappointed with myself, I was actually very excited. So that sort of set the tone with the rest of the story, because I showed up every day. I was not the best performer easily for 8 months. I was still learning all the movements. And somewhere around the 8-month mark, when I started to be a little bit more, novice, intermediate athlete compared to some of the more advanced elite ones, but I was far from the original place I was starting, the beginner level. I found that not only did I have a passion to continue improving myself physically and mentally, but I actually found that I had an interest in doing that for other people or with other people. And so I was casually coaching other people at the time. And the next thing you know, I got asked to open up a box. And the next thing you know, I got asked to be a coaching intern, and which eventually led me to where I am today. And that's how I got into CrossFit.
Okay. No, but I'm curious, Job.
Caveat though,
Go, Sap.
Job is everybody's friend. Like ever since he's been like everybody's friend. Like even the people who didn't like Nikki Rai.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Libra. I'm a Libra.
Actually, a lot of people who didn't like Nikki.
Yeah. No, but Job was like, let's put Job into context first. We met Job.
Yeah, you didn't know. You have
we'll put it into
give
context. Yeah, no, we've known.
Okay.
Let me jump in.
Okay, let's take
first year high school, from the province, but he was super smart and super generous. We would always hang out, and me and Snap had very limited allowance.
Allowance was so small. Like we couldn't.
Yeah, we couldn't afford
Joe
to eat.
Paid for everything.
Yeah,
he would pay he'd pay
he
for
was
lunch.
A sugar mama. He was a sugar mama.
Can I just be a sugar daddy? Why you gotta make me a
and fucking and Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
You'd pay for Counter-Strike too, dude. Grabe yan.
And
but then like
to top that he made us cheat off him.
Yeah, because he was smart.
Smart.
I mean he is smart.
Especially
like he was good at algebra.
We're really disclosing all of this information.
We are, man.
To your
of course
viewers.
we are.
It's like that. It's like that. You have to watch ours. Like the one Nikki and I did. It was really.
I mean, I think that's that's one of the. I'm not encouraging cheating for all you kids out there. I'm just saying that when someone's willing to risk their academic, they're basically prowess. That's that's a big thing. That's like willing to jump off a cliff for your friend.
There would be weeks he would sleep in my house like 3 times. And
basically we had their house.
Pare, those late night conversations. Talagang
I remember your mom getting
now.
mad at me because I would go home, like it would be like, so I'd go home, I'd go with you on a Friday, and then I'd be there on a Saturday. But Saturday night, I would go home, and then I would get a text from your mom, and she'd be like, "Why didn't you tell me that you were going home this morning? I had breakfast prepared for you. Don't forget your Lopa we." And I'm like, "Oh shit."
That's so my mom though.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, but those were good times. Like I remember you. I think your brother was the one who helped me with all those, like when you look back at it, those stupid fights, like with other people, and like your brother was the one who helped me out.
One of my, like for me, the top, I mean, apart from me helping you guys, well, Nikki more, Snap can take care of himself, but not really.
Shut up, man. What the fuck?
There was another time where I had to tell Snap. Snap. I remember.
But you gave me the heads up. That jump,
yeah, you remember that
jump,
time?
Yeah, that jump. Like if not for Job, I would have gotten jumped so bad.
Yeah,
but
it would have been
Job
so
gave me the heads up. I was able to get the first guy, and then I was getting at the second guy, and then I got hit. Puta.
But I saw them coming in already, and I was like, "Snap, move!" And he was like,
"I know,
I was like,
"You did." That's why I walked towards them, and then they came out of the tree and fucking pushed me. So yun na. Wala na. All bets are off.
Yeah. So for everyone who isn't aware of what we're talking about, back in the day, high school, this was like the early 2000s. There were a lot of fights.
Yeah, like 2003, 2004.
Like Ateneo versus Ateneo, La Salle versus Ateneo. Like
we weren't sensitive about what was posted on social media. We dealt with shit with our fists. That's basically, if you saw somebody and you didn't really like the way they looked, or they looked at you weirdly, or like in a maangas way, they jump you. Or if you're getting with the girls, they jump you. Or they were like,
any reason to jump you or fight you,
Yeah.
they would basically, that was our reality. So we lived in a bit
But
of
I,
But
fear.
I am proud to say, never have we fallen as of yet.
well, but to Nikki's point earlier, I remember like the most memorable when it comes to my brother as well, right? We had this one fight, and then this guy who was fighting Nikki. By the way, I had nothing to do with this. Like, we had a friend who ratted out all of our cell phone numbers to him, right? And he decides that I was first point of contact, so he calls me, right? And he's trying to
Called
scare
you.
me. Yeah, he called me, right?
Tangina,
With my, with,
taga-tap siya?
with my
Seryoso
old
ba
ass,
siya?
yeah, with my old ass 5110 cell phone, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and I was first point of contact, and he was trying to scare me, and then to tell
Yeah.
Nikki like, hey, you gotta back off and stuff like this. And then I remember that I was talking to him, and my brother overheard me. So I didn't even ask for help. He just heard me that I was, talking, with this guy on the phone, and it wasn't pretty. And he was like, hand over the phone. And I was just like, what? No, this is my fight. No, he's like, give me the phone. And of course, he's older than me and he's bigger.
Yeah.
So I had to give it to him. And then he tells me to leave the room. And I was like, what the fuck? And I leave.
Yeah.
And he calls me back and he gives me the phone back. And then the next thing I know, it's just completely change of tone. He's just completely apologetic. And I was just like, yeah, Nikki's good now.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah, those were
Good times.
crazy times. Good times.
Grabe yun, di ba?
Good times. Good times.
Yeah.
And to Snap's point, we made it out alive.
Yeah. But I think, no, I mean, I really want to tie this up with like the way, I guess, the man you've become now, and you're helping a lot of people through fitness, through, and I don't even think it's fitness. It's also, it's not just physical strength. It seems like it's a lot of, I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong. It's a lot of it's mental strength, mental grit, diba? To be able to, keep going and keep, like, life's hard, but, like through the intense workouts, I guess you're able to, like find that,
Job is always able to power through, man.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Resilience.
so one of the biggest misconceptions, right, about the fitness industry, and this is absolutely normal, especially with this day and age, where most of what you see are influencers. Shout out to you influencers out there. No offense. But they tend to focus a little bit too much on one, imagery, and two, I would say the superficial idea that our main purpose here, or the main purpose of our industry, is to give you guys workouts for movement. But in reality, it's so much more than that. We, like what you said, right? There are aspects of mental training and emotional training, and in all honesty, these are all parts of it. Like, if I may, whenever I work with any of my athletes as well as my coaches, whenever we do discussions on development, whether athlete development or coaches development, so that they can be better at their performance or at their job, we talk about certain tenets, and only one of them actually involves movement or working out, and that's performance. So that's one. Two would be sleep. Three, very important, would actually be mindset. Four would actually be recovery. And five would be outliers, such as like managing stress, which is not necessarily about just mindset and recovery, but there's also that. So if you take a look at those simple tenets and those simple pillars, we're already looking at a very, very large and general field that we instructors, fitness instructors and coaches actually have to deal with. And that's sort of like one of my biggest frustrations when it comes to dealing with my career, dealing with that misconception, like what I said, about who we are and what we do. And it's difficult because, like I mentioned earlier, we live in a world where influencers are more seen than the ones who, like myself, dive our noses down in books, and we read every night.
Yeah.
We study, we practice, and it's shadowed by that. But
That's why we're doing this.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
We're integrating.
That's why I do believe that as long as we're putting our efforts outwards to show the world that there are people who care more about whether you go full depth in a squat, whether you do 100 reps, but more of asking questions such as, how are you doing today and what can we do about it? And this is coming from a fitness instructor. The broader the range of our reach will be. And more instructors will understand that beyond just physical health,
Yeah.
we are responsible for other things as well.
No, I totally agree. Because, like, I mean, I want to just sound off from what you were saying about being, like, actually caring about your students, about your clients, your the people that you train. Because, like, me as a yoga teacher, I never wanted to be a yoga teacher. That was not part of like my like bucket list or like things to do. It's just that
Yeah.
when you've
fucking threw that curveball at me in Dipolog.
yeah, I mean, like
right before Sinulog.
Yeah, no, but like
Like,
the thing is, like, when you feel like when you've learned so much that you can't help but just share it because it's bettered your life, and you know that it can really benefit other people, you just it naturally just comes out. Like I remember when I taught my first class, I was so nervous, but I realized looking back, I was nervous because I gave a shit. I didn't want to it wasn't about me embarrassing myself. I just really wanted to like do it well because I wanted them to be able to understand where I was coming from so they could actually practice it in their lives and not just, parang it's really like how do you
genuine connection.
Yeah, genuine connection. Like it's like giving somebody a hug. I mean, like a stranger a hug.
Energy exchange.
Exactly.
It's an energy exchange.
Exactly. But Joe,
Clow made a good point earlier, kanina, Nikki. I'm the guy that's kind of corporate and all that, and I'm the one talking consciousness and all this. It contradicts our ano. We can cut this part out. But like, parang kinokontra ko daw yung character ko. Sabi
kontra mo nga yung character mo, yeah. But it's okay. That's don't overthink it. It's fine. Contradictions are good. It makes it more interesting.
So I kind of want to snowball on. I kind of want to snowball on what you just said there, Nikki, which is like, and I know I'm kind of fast forwarding on this one, like based on the notes that you guys gave me earlier. But
no, it's okay. It's okay.
just flow. Yeah, so one of the points there is like, so what is your philosophy? And I want to go back into. So the first fact here is that I've been doing this for about 8 years. So I'm closer to the 10-year mark than I am being a rookie at my job nowadays. And given Nikki, I know you would kind of relate with me on this one. When you're dealing with classes all the time, when you're dealing with people all the time, when you're in a service industry such as ours, where your line of work is actually a form of service, it's definitely draining.
Super.
Energy draining.
Super.
One simple class can be so tiring to the point that I'd rather teach. I'd rather spend 8 hours on a desk, not having to deal with anyone, just working on my laptop, keeping my head down, versus teaching 1 full hour where I have to deal with 35 different personalities, 50 different personalities. And like what you said earlier, Snap, exchanging or giving my energies to them. And in as much as there is a certain level of exchange, the reality of it also there is it's actually not so much an exchange as it is a give out. When people attend your classes, especially when they're there for you, like they really need your energy.
They're taking it from you
all to them, right?
Yeah.
And
you just have to be aware of that and be aware of those that are always just draining and not reciprocating.
Yeah, we can talk about
if you're not able to identify.
Yeah, like later we can talk about like what parasites and charlatans are. But basically, so my point here that I want to snowball Nikki's point is when asked what my philosophy is in life, one day I had one of my mentees. So I mentor a lot of coaches. One of my mentees, she was kind of drunk and she just went up to me and she just asked me, "Job, you're one of the few longer or long-lasting coaches in the industry now in CrossFit because it's very tiring. It really is. And I've not deviated. I've stuck with the industry. I didn't go to one-on-ones. I didn't change industry. I didn't go to another brand in the Philippines. Pwede kong kaaway. I'm just kidding. Right? Basically, her question to me was simple. She was like,
Joe's dropping bombs.
How are you not burnt out? How are you not tired from what you're doing? I mean, I've only been doing this, so my mentee, I've only been doing this for 6 months. I got my certification and I already feel like I'm burning out. I'm feeling tired from all the work, from putting myself out there, from all the energy. And I think it's very important to have a passion that we were talking about. But more importantly, my philosophy in life is actually very simple. And we talk about what our purpose here is in life. And mine has sort of narrowed down through the years, especially with my work, into one simple sentence. For as long as I am upwards, I'll say upwards, for as long as I am upwards of making a positive impact on other people's lives, I'm good. And so
Cool.
for me, no
Awesome.
matter what happens, I feel like this is the industry I belong in. Or even if I didn't, if I worked in other industries, as long as I'm following my philosophy, my energy reserve cycles in and out.
Okay, I really like that, Joe. But like, I'm curious also, especially for people, there are a lot of people that are in situations where, like, for example, they're working a corporate job, but let's say somebody's into photography and super passionate, doesn't mind doing the hustle, the grind on his free time. But like with you're an exception in the sense that you're doing it full time. You're making a living off it. You're inspired. You're also passionate about it. But what can you tell people who are scared pa, or very, how do you say this, insecure about the idea of going all in and really like living a meaningful life, but at the same time being able to pay for the bills, because it's the reality. We still need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
earn, diba? So what
Yeah.
are your like what would you tell people about regarding that?
Yeah. So I've and I like that question because, again, just to be clear, right? Our line of work, especially my line of work, being coaching and everything, it will never give me a Ferrari.
Mm.
But we never wanted Ferrari.
Yeah,
Exactly.
never
So
wanted a
that's
Ferrari.
so before I even give advice, I think one of the more important questions each person has to ask themselves is, what is your goal? And if the goal in life is something that's very concrete for you, then good on you. Then you already have your first step. Now, it's going to be very vague and very general, so I'll not go into detail on that. But soon after you're able to answer what your goal is in life, then you ask yourself, what is your purpose? And if you don't currently have answers to these two things, then I wouldn't actually say, so here's where the advice part comes in. I wouldn't say,
Yeah,
don't jump in with
exactly.
both of your feet in just yet. Figure
Yeah.
out first what your goals are. Figure out first what you feel is your purpose in life, so that you're put on the right path. Once you've figured that out, as what you mentioned, Nikki, if this calling of yours is in front of you, whether it's photography, whether it's being a banker, whether it's being in the fitness industry or anything else, if this is your calling and your calling answers your goals and purpose, then by all means you have to jump with both feet in, and everything will be provided for. Now, there's this cliche word they say, like, find something that you're passionate about and do that, and you won't work a day in your life. Now, that's
That's
very
true.
vague in general. Now, I just kind of want to
Yeah.
be
The
specific.
path of
here.
least resistance.
Correct, yeah. So once you take a leap, right, you don't do it blindly. Right? Think about skydiving. It's one of the scariest things ever to do. You're in a plane 3,000 feet up in the air, and when the instructor says jump, jump, like, first of all, how do you trust the instructor? Second of all, did I check my parachute? Third of all, like, you have so many things that you're thinking about. But if your goal and purpose is clear, so if I'm a skydiver and my goal and purpose is clear, which is to jump and experience this act
Yeah.
of skydiving, all and every possible outcome does not matter to me anymore. If my parachute fails, I die. That's part of the process.
No, you have a second shoot. Yeah.
And you have a second shoot, but beyond that, it's more of my goal and purpose was to experience skydiving in the first place. So I gotta jump. I gotta go. Because if
Yeah.
I don't, then I'll
That's
never
it.
experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're not living.
True.
Yeah.
You
True.
gotta.
But here's
That's
the
the
thing.
leap of faith.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
here's the
leap
thing
of
as
faith.
well. But
Exactly.
here's the
But
thing as
don't
well.
do it
You
blindly.
don't exactly.
Have the parachute.
Yeah,
Wear the
apart from
fucking
having parachute,
parachute.
you don't jump and just like assume whatever position. You assume a position that is taught to you, that is guided to you, or whether you research it for yourself, that puts you in the best
Something you've
possible
learned.
free fall position, right? And so,
Okay.
what is that when it comes to jumping into a career? So, for me, I didn't just jump into this with both feet without considering the consequences or the possible outcomes. I figured out, or I knew for a fact, that this is not going to give me millions. But then again, that's not my goal. But also, I have bills to pay. So how do I manage that? And with that, I have to think about the things that, okay, I'm working on something I'm passionate about, and I consider this my full-time job. Good on me. So if I treated this as a hobby before, I wasn't pursuing it, I wasn't giving it my full time, that's okay. But now it's not a hobby anymore. I'm actually pursuing it full time. So what can I do in my pastime? What I do, and this is advice, what I would like to do in my pastime is to fill out the holes that my current passion has. So if we're going
Aligns with, something that aligns with that.
Right. So if we're going back to my point earlier, knowing that I'm in the fitness industry, I'm not going to get a Ferrari. I'm not going to get a 15-bedroom house mansion, but that's not my goal. But I do have bills to pay.
Yeah.
And if I'm not able to pay my bills, that becomes an issue. And that's my first hole. So I'm going to recognize that now, and I'm going to find a hobby that allows me to fill that hole up. So it could be any side hustle, a business that I might thrive in, like let's say coffee. I can go into stocks. I can look at foreign exchange. Something that's simplistic and won't take much of my time, but will support me in my main line of work. And for me, that's the second parachute, or that's the first parachute. I've got this safety net. That's a simple safety mechanism that will give me this pat on the back, like a proverbial pat on the back that says, Job, we're good, go, jump. And so here I am. I jump out of the plane. I'm skydiving. I'm experiencing everything that I really wanted. My goal of just skydiving and just being in the moment without being afraid of certain aspects, because I had already done, my preemptive.
All the pre-checking. Yeah.
So that's
a really great fucking figure of speech.
And an analogy for it.
Yeah, it really is, man. I like that perspective. I think there are so many roads. I think like even with Snap, you also have your own, like, I guess, journey. That's, I just want to, we're not saying naman na parang everything, there's only one way. There's so many ways.
Yeah,
like some people have different parachutes. Like
I changed career. Yeah, I changed career. I had no, just so there's perspective for everyone else. There was no parachute. I basically jumped into renewable energy, worked for a Filipino-Chinese company in Intramuros. Starting pay was 15,000, and that's Monday to Saturday, off-grid solar. Proved myself with them. Got promoted, got salary increases, and eventually that's how I got to Ayala. But like Job said, I mean, I had to plan it out. I used to be the youngest commodities trader in the country, moving hundreds of thousands of tons of commodities in Mindanao. And I let that go. Nikki, you know that. I mean, you've visited the Polo.
Yeah.
You saw how I was quite comfortable there. I mean,
Nikki went from creatives to service.
Yeah. No, it's really like, because the thing is, when it I remember with me naman, like I was in the production advertising industry, and it was so much fun. So much fun talaga. Like, but I guess with me looking back, when I started to get bored, when I started to get uninspired, parang at first I was like, no, it's just a rut. But then when my energy started going into just practicing yoga, learning more about it, and I realized, okay, my interests change. Like, the thing is, we don't think we're going to change, but we do. And sometimes we hang on to that identity na I'm Nikki as the director, Seabiscuit. And I honestly grappled with that. Like, for the last 5 years, I had 1 foot in Seabiscuit, 1 foot in teaching. And I kept thinking, I don't want this. But the thing, sounding off to what Job said, that in terms of the parachutes and the safety nets, Seabiscuit was the reason I could do teacher training in New Mexico. It was the reason I could teach in different places, because it paid for my bills. Yeah. You know what I mean? So parang
in that light, I guess due to certain sensitivities, we can't explain what happened to my business. That's why, like, had that been there, that would have been my version of that. But then
Yeah, but I also
things
wanted
got
to
complicated.
sound out on that. Like with Snap, it's not like what we were saying earlier. There's so many things and so many different things. And with Nikki and myself, we're able to consciously decide on these things. With Snap,
I
it
know,
was more
yeah.
of like he was fucking ripped out of a
Yeah.
page and
Yeah.
transferred onto another page. And that kind of transition is very different as well, circumstances that
Yeah,
force
employee
you.
life. Employee
Exactly.
life. Like,
Yeah.
imagine in Dipolog, uh, on when it's habagat, I could just wake up, surf,
Yeah.
check
Right?
my computer, make
Yeah.
some calls.
Yeah.
2 hours, my work day's done.
Yeah.
Nikki was there.
And
What was my work day like, Nikki?
Yeah, I was just chill.
yeah. And you don't get to choose that, right? Like the circumstances pushed you
They do talaga.
in a direction,
Oh,
right? Not like
my partner Harrison and I really worked on that business. I drove the
yeah.
truck, man.
Yeah.
Like
No,
I
I mean
have
like
stories.
you having to move from Dipolog to where you are now. Yeah. Like
Oh yeah,
it
from
was a
both
it was,
Manila to Dipolog, then
exactly, yeah.
Dipolog to Manila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a forced hand kind of situation. It's not like
Yeah.
But the thing is,
all
the thing
different
about,
for everyone.
but the thing about that, these unforeseen events, these really big life altering stuff, it always sucks in the moment. But I think it's supposed to suck. It's supposed to feel like, oh
Yeah.
fuck, like what am I gonna do?
Mahirap.
But mahirap.
Dapat
Pero
mahirap.
when you look back at it, it's like, tangina, if
I
it
needed
weren't
that.
hard, I wouldn't have been in the place I am right now, diba?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's
Exactly.
one of the hardest fucking things to be aware that, okay, like for example, my marriage is ending. Am I aware that it's ending? But if you can kind of just get a tiny glimpse of you experiencing this huge like avalanche that's about to fall on you, you're gonna know that, okay, worst case I survive. I know, worst case I die. Best case I thrive. But
Right.
we
Yeah.
don't know, diba? We don't know. But like when you look back at it, that's when it makes sense. That's when parang, okay, parang this really had to happen. If not, I wouldn't have taken this path.
Yeah, for sure. And sounding out of all of that and just talking about like different perspectives as well. I did mention that I've been in this for 8 years, but it's definitely not been smooth sailing. There has been instances where it was like that. I'll say as extreme to the point of, my marriage is about to end, and my marriage being my marriage with CrossFit, meaning my career got to multiple points where it could have just ended or I could have just walked away. One of the biggest pinnacle points there was 4 years ago when I had to close the very first gym that I opened, which thrived for 4 or 5 years in Alabang. And the way that closed wasn't very pleasant. And, it was a fairly traumatic experience. I could have easily walked from it, as I have walked away from other businesses as well and business opportunities. But to your point there as well, Nikki, I looked at the silver lining. I looked at the glimpse of what could be if I had chosen a different path, if I had gone and walked away. And I'll be honest, I spent my time. I spent about 3 months figuring out what I wanted to do differently and what I wanted to do other than what I was currently doing at the time. But you know what? Every night before I went to bed, it was the same exact calling. It's as if, there were powers beyond me and there were forces around me that I would not see or recognize that just simply pushed me back into the position that, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
No, I totally feel you. I remember mid last year, I decided to really pursue teaching, and I was like getting 5 private sessions a day back to back, and it was great. Like, but at the end of that month, I remember I was like, I'm so burned out. I'm so tired. So I was like, I'm not gonna do this now. And I didn't. I stopped. I traveled and didn't teach for 6 months. But like that was one of the biggest realizations I ever had. I was enjoying life, meeting new people, traveling to new places, but I was so empty, so depressed, so unfulfilled because I wasn't helping anybody. I was just serving myself. And then when I got back to Manila a year after, when I started teaching again, I started slowly feeling normal again. Not even normal, happy.
So that's the time that you decided to leave all of us
Yeah.
abruptly, and then yeah, di ba yun yun? Tama ba?
Yeah.
Yun,
That
di ba
was
yung sinabi
Yeah.
mo?
Yeah, it was
Alis
it.
ka
It
ng
was it.
Feb, and then
Yeah,
babay
yeah,
na. Di
yeah,
ka man
yeah,
lang
yeah,
pumunta sa birthday ko. Si Job, kasama ko nun yung birthday ko na yun. He was
yeah,
there eh.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Last to leave.
Well, yeah, you can. It's the thing.
Pero,
You try to run away from your problems. Wherever you go, it's gonna haunt you. You know, wala, ganun
I
talaga.
haunted Nicky back in Los Angeles.
Yeah, remember that. Yeah,
I was his little taste of home.
yeah. But
nice,
wala, you know,
nice.
like it's good to get it out of your system, but then you can't deny the pull, and of course the comfort of community,
Yeah.
friends, and loved ones. So linking that, Joe, maybe you can share like what does community mean to you, especially with the CrossFit community?
Yeah. So I think that question is very important, especially to me, because I've experienced other lines of work before, and none of them had community as a word in any part of the index. You know, you work in a kitchen, you're by yourself. You may have a team, but there's no community aspect there. If you work in a restaurant, you're serving people that service, but there's no community aspect there. You can have regulars, but that's not a community. You don't know where they live. You don't know their siblings. You don't know if they have a dog. When I moved into the world of CrossFit, we have this line. It says the science is in programming, the program, the workout, but the magic is in community. And that was a
I
line
like
made
that.
by the founder of CrossFit, which is Greg Glassman. And it's absolutely true. Whenever we run feedbacks or surveys in our gym, in our box, we always ask them, what is your favorite thing about our box, our gym? So my main one is Central Ground CrossFit and BGC. And easily the answer would be, it's either we love the coaching and the workouts that are being given, but more importantly, we absolutely love the CG, which stands for Central Ground, CG community. And for years, it's such an easily thrown word.
Yeah.
And everybody's simple idealism of it is just, it's in their head. Like, I'm part of a community. I'm part of a facility that has, a family building aspect to it. And that's great. But if we take the time to just kind of take a step back, look in and figure out what's going on, there's so much magic in it. Like, for example, the moment we closed our doors, everyone was just freaking out. But the thing is, everyone was freaking out together. When people were having problems, it's funny because, and I know this for a fact, the people in my gym, our community, instead of going to their direct family for advice, information, they were going to each other. And everybody was sharing best practices when it comes to what they're doing with their businesses, what their companies are doing, what our business is doing. And all of a sudden, what people are thriving for is a sense of normalcy. And that's sort of like what communities these days are trying to look for. And that's why you have all of these inumans, you have all of these online gatherings, parties, and everything. And
yeah, but there are also the fucked up communities coming up. Like in our village, there's this guy proposing to put up like a task force na kung sino yung mga may baril sa village.
Yeah.
I was like, that's super fucked up. And then he wants to conduct training for the security in the village. First and foremost, as an employee of the white man under the legal and regulatory department, releasing a firearm or a round in a public place is against the law. So there's some groups that are not good. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, especially when right now the climate. I mean, in terms of like with people, there's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And fear kind of like affects different groups, different people in a certain way. So like with you in the CrossFit community, you guys are trying to help each other.
Yeah.
But for those that don't have that kind of like encouraging, loving community, you're gonna see people to help.
Negative
talaga, diba?
Yeah,
it turns into anarchy.
Exactly.
Diba? Yeah,
like putting on
like
the fear lang
parang
talaga.
SYS sila, save yourself lang sila. Fuck that, diba? Putang ina.
And that's why I think the term community is so sensitive. Like, we we're called box owners. When you own a gym, your main task, apart from keeping it alive business-wise, is to build communities. And
Nice.
honestly, in the Philippines, there are a lot of people who are very good at doing this. We call them
Man, I meet the most
integrated family
random
workers.
people who know who
Yeah.
you are because they attended a class or like
Right.
they like sila Joe, Tempong, ko, di ba?
Yeah.
And then even Ken Baracoso always
Yeah.
goes. Di ba?
Yeah.
Pia, my cousin.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
crazy.
That's our
You're
job,
Joe
man.
fucking
That's our,
Wee. You're
that's our
Joe
job.
fucking Wee, man.
But dude, the thing is, they love you because you don't treat it like a job. You treat it like a calling. Eh.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's like you're doing it because you really want to be there. You know what I mean? And that's
'cause
infectious.
You're everybody's friend.
Yeah.
That's
You're
positive.
You're a good guy. You're not like us.
If we're in good terms, we're friends. But believe me, guys, when I say this, I have a lot of haters, and they put face when they see me, and they act as my friend. But in reality, they backstab me any chance they can get, and it's fine and it's
Dude,
normal.
that's all of us.
That's how
Yeah.
that's what you get when you're trying to make something. That's
And
what
there's
you
no
get
such
when
thing
you're
as
trying
bad PR, man. Let them talk trash.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part
yeah.
of it.
No,
Part of
yeah.
the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it happens in the office.
Yeah, for sure,
Right.
man. Like I
Yeah.
remember,
I do the 9 to 5, right?
dude. Like even with my own employees, like I would overhear them talk shit about me.
Yeah.
You know, as the leader, because I mean, people have their own opinions. Just the way you're not gonna please everyone. Like
Yeah.
fuck it, just
Yeah.
live your life.
And you have no right to impose
Yeah,
what you believe to try to sway their opinion. Parang
No
you
talaga.
can, di ba, you can tell them, pero you have no right to impose. Parang kung ayaw nila, that's the way they want to live their life.
I saw this. I was reading this post. There's so many posts happening now in like Facebook and stuff, and like the post read, now is super a time. It's super important to practice critical thinking because you're being bombarded with real news, fake news, opinion. Like all these like just words, but like you really need to like discern. Parang does it feel right? Does it
You have
sound
to
right?
have the filter. Yeah, you have to have the filter. It's the same thing with people. It's the energy. Like you'll feel it. Alam mong may mali. For example, yung mga fake news, yung mga notice. It's like bbc.cc.com pala. Tas akala nila BBC.
Yeah.
Or Bloomberg, and then they put another letter in the end, and then people just don't know.
Like remember our advertising class in high school, Mrs. Dator.
Yeah.
Dude, she fucking
we
replied to my Instagram post like a week ago. She was like, "You should have submitted this meeting." And I'm like, anyway, I'm just digressing, but like, I just remembered. Remember?
No, go.
They were teaching us about brands and their subliminal messages. You remember like the Marlboro and then like
Marlboro was a pussy.
Yeah. But like the thing is, the way people are actually promoting brands and the way they're disseminating information to us, man, it's on a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's like it's
different now.
It's
Yeah,
totally
it's
different.
programming. The programming is so refined because again, you have to be aware of conversation modeling. You have to be aware of the access that you are giving to your mobile devices, your laptops. I'm officially the data privacy officer of AC Energy, so I can tell you this in my capacity as having that title. Na everything is recorded.
It's fucking crazy.
And basically, everything is aggregated. If you watch that movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Snowden.
Yeah.
Yeah, he explains it. Epic Shelter is the farming mechanism, and then he created a secondary program that indexes it.
Yeah.
Is basically just put it into a program that can do risk analysis and quantitative analytics with scenario planning. Then they know literally what to feed you at a certain point in time, at what point in the day you're supposed to see a certain post to maximize the positive outcome of our version of reality.
What is the documentary on Netflix, The Great Hack or something?
The Great Hack, yeah. So that's Cambridge Analytica. But
that's just.
But remember, I told you about that 2014, 2015. Remember, I made that survey. I wanted a very reliable survey company in the Philippines and in ASEAN
But
to
okay,
run a new survey.
you
Diba?
just gave me, since you said 2014. I'm gonna backtrack a
Go,
bit
go, go.
more to like
Go,
kind
go,
of tie
go.
this whole thing up with you, me, and Joe, because just for everyone to
Yeah.
know, we were the outliers. We were hated.
That's an
This-
understatement.
It is an understatement. I
We
know, but
ate just with each other. We
yeah,
never ate with
we did,
anybody else.
we were too cool for everyone
Except
else.
fourth year.
Yeah,
Except
we kind
fourth
of
year when I
integrated a
was
bit
forced
more.
to eat with my basketball team. No
Yeah,
choice.
yeah, yeah.
And
But okay,
diba?
I just wanna highlight this because I feel it's a good analogy. Like look at us our high school versions. We were like rebels without a cause really.
Recluse. Yeah,
Recluse,
recluse, hedonist.
hedonist, parang we just wanted to have fun. We wanted to enjoy, diba?
I mean, think
We,
about it. We were from 13 until 20 plus. We were just going to house parties in Alabang, Dasma, for. I mean, as entitled as that sounds, we really, I would say, not even made the most, but rather took advantage
took
of
advantage, of course.
all those
Took
opportunities.
advantage,
Like,
yeah. But I think the thing about that though, I'm not saying it was selfish, very self-entitled, all that stuff, but we
we
weren't
learned
scared to question the system.
authority.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, that was the
you know
good
what I
thing.
mean? That was the silver lining there. Because right now, I would have to say the three of us, we still question the system. We're not playing by the rules. We're breaking them because we feel that that's what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? That's
For the record, I am working within the system, and I am as a legal and regulatory senior level person. I am now learning how to work within the rules. I understand the rules, and then we work within them. Right, Nikki? That's our new
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, I'm a Kundalini yoga
Remember?
teacher, so I've gone full retard. So like, I can totally.
I
Hey
love it.
man,
I love it. Hey,
CrossFit.
hey.
We're a
Okay,
freaking
hey, hey,
cult,
okay,
remember?
okay. Hey, wait.
we're in cults. We're
Yeah,
basically cults.
yeah.
I should
Okay,
have worn my
okay.
turban.
We can. You should have. You should have fucking worn it. Okay. In summary, Mr. Jobwi, what is the key takeaway for everybody listening?
In the time of COVID, or
Yeah, I think now is a really
I
good
think now
time.
is the best.
It's the best time
Yeah, in the
for
time of uncertainty.
uncertainty and
That's the crazy part. You're gonna give your key takeaway
how to
in a
survive.
time where
You don't know what's gonna happen.
we don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah. Well, and I know we didn't discuss this so much, but like, so one of the reasons why I was also approached by Nikki and Snap is I come from a family of doctors. And when you rotate in a family of doctors, you're not necessarily in the know, but you have quite the influence when it comes to discerning specifically information. As what Nikki mentioned, we will be the types of people who go against the system, and that's very seen and applicable to me when it comes to my job and who I've had to work with previously before. But also to his point is, we don't get to where we are, we don't become who we are if we're not able to put our foot down and stand up for the things that we believe in. And to that point, it's also sort of like how everybody should be right now when it comes to discerning information, critical thinking. It's very important to not just recognize what you see and what you hear, but just understanding first and foremost how that affects you directly, and that how that's going to affect your future, because obviously none of this is going to affect our past. But if you think about it, what use do you have with the information that in the United States of America, about half a million people now have the virus, and the state of New York alone has more deaths than, if it were a country on its own, it has the most number of deaths, right? How does that affect you? If you've not asked that question, you're not discerning properly. You're not thinking about relevance of information first and foremost, and you'll most likely act out of instinct, act out of intuition. That's going to give you a very
Rather,
inefficient result. You're going to run to the
Yep.
grocery store and buy toilet paper. And
Mm.
what did that do to you? The United States is hours and thousands of miles away from us. The second thing also is, with regards to critical thinking and discerning, is we have to recognize, one, the country that we live in, the culture that we are in. We're very heavy on looking at social media, electronic information. And you have to realize, and we were talking about this earlier, there are powers beyond what we see. Advertising. It's a whole different level. There are more things in the system that put information out there for you to think a certain way. And you just don't know it. And whether it's a government, a very high-powered private company, private sector, certain industry, whether it's plastics, my industry is not big enough, foreign exchange, finance, funds, world funds, they can easily pay any form of electronic information to be put out there. Change the hashtag for all we care. Run trolls anywhere from third parties and other companies, and your train of thought can easily change. And that's only because our current culture, especially the Filipinos, are so weighed heavily on what we see online.
Don't be scared to question, guys.
Exactly. You got to put your foot down. The other aspect there also, and this is kind of like the comedy skit, right? And this is very common, I know, is our Viber titas. All of the information that I heard from my friend, look at
forwarding.
This. Yeah, right? Yeah. And they'll be like, not confirmed, But you see, that sheer act of sharing information,
that's not verified.
Exactly. And that's whether verified or not, honestly, actually, that's fine. But that sheer act of that sharing of information does not help towards creating a culture that properly discerns relevance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember we were on a call last night, and I was telling you guys that since this lockdown, I've been forced in my home, and I've been stuck here, which is fine because I found my element and I'm comfortable where I am. I'm able to do my work. I feel blessed to be able to continue to do my work even without a facility to work with. But more importantly, I've got quite close to my brother in a sense that I've gotten to know him in a sense that if there was an apocalyptic setting, that we're quite aligned. And it's great because it's good to know that I'm not the one just imagining this in my head, that my actions for the next day, 2, 3 days, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years has to revolve around, not just reason, but just the idea of critical thinking. And so for me, that would be that would be one of the key takeaways. Just know and understand how you process information first and foremost. Think about relevance as a key, and being able to act accordingly to it without just bouncing off of intuition or just going into a spontaneous or instincts, right? It doesn't always work, right? You got to be a little bit more reasonable than that. Going into my line of work and my line of expertise, at least for those who are still listening and want to think about what they can do when it comes to health and wellness in relation to this virus, right? I just want to kind of keep it simple. We understand that the virus is spread through droplets, and it's a virus that affects your respiratory system. And unless you are a senior of age, or you have comorbidities, or you're one of those who are relatively unfit, the chances of you not only contracting the disease or contracting the virus, contracting is higher, but the chances of you fighting it off and being cleared of it is relatively lower. So from a health standpoint, I do want to recommend everyone to be able to first and foremost have a form of exercise on a daily basis. I'll get into the simple guidelines of this in just a little bit, but also be cautious about what your nutrition is like or what your food intake is like. Now, if we had to talk about this, we'll end up talking about for about 3 hours. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to go into what should be a general idea of how people should be working out and a general idea of what they should be eating in general, right? So first and foremost, the workout. one of the most important, we want to take a look at what the virus affects again. So it's your respiratory system. And so I'll keep it simple. If your body enters a state of cardiovascular activity, it's respiratory and cardiovascular activity, which basically means that your lungs and your heart are working, and you know that this is happening because, let's use a simple metric, you won't be able to have a constant conversation like how we're talking right now, because you're experiencing a little bit of shortness of breath. So you'll have to breathe a little bit before you talk again. That's how you know that your respiratory function is working hard. You know that your heart is working a little bit harder as well. If I'm not saying that you should feel dizzy, but you feel that your blood flow is either too fast or not enough, to the point where there are signs where, like I said, you kind of tend to have a feeling of dizziness, and that's not always a bad thing. It's just your heart's working extra. If you can feel your heart rate and it's going up, that's also your sign that your heart rate is going up. So what's important about knowing these two things? If you enter that state of working your lungs and working your heart, and you stay in that state for about 15 minutes a day, that's all you need. So whether it's following a fitness video that you see online, or whether it's going out for a jog knowing that social distancing is applied, or doing whatever it is in your household, for as long as you're observing 15 minutes or so of lung and heart activity, you're good.
Job, thanks so much for sharing your insights and learnings on your journey. We really appreciate it. I think a lot of people will benefit from your life, man. You're an inspiration.
He's a fucking legend.
Fucking legend.
Hate that term, when they go up to me and they say, "Oh my God, it's Joby the legend." I'm like, am I dead? Am I
has-been? That's what they call him, Nikki.
Is my time done? Like,
dude, that's like, take it, man. Take the compliment. Take the compliment.
Just take it. Well, okay, guys, come on. You know me. I can't take compliments.
Well, you better learn.
You know that.
Same. Yeah, si Nikki lang yung okay lang sa compliment.
Medyo okay lang ako. Yeah.
My weakness,
Job,
bro.
hindi natin masyado gusto.
Can't give me compliments.
No off ako eh. No off ako eh.
I don't think it's about being humble. It's just like, it's awkward for me,
But you know what, Joe?
It's awkward for me, yeah.
When you were talking about like being discerning and stuff, it really reminded me of the book The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So it's basically based on like ancient Mexican indigenous people. So they wrote it.
Okay.
And this guy wrote basically 4 agreements that we're supposed to live by. And I just want to read them because I think they pretty much sum up where we're at and how we're supposed to kind of like handle the situation with the virus and the way people are like giving information.
Oh my God, yeah, I know this book, yeah.
Diba? Number 1, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make any assumptions. And number 4, always do your best. You know what I mean? It's simple, but so hard to practice.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's
hard.
It's hard. But it's supposed to be hard. You know what I mean? That's what people don't... I mean, I always tell my students, actually, Job, when it's their first time to meditate, first time to practice yoga, I always tell them, it's like working out. When it's your very first time to work out and lift a dumbbell, you won't be able to lift it. You know what I mean? But when you keep doing it, after a few weeks, after a few months, you're going to start building muscle. You're going to start building strength. It's the same thing with habits. It's the same thing with the way you interact with people, with the way you consume things. It's harder, but it gets easier too. And then before you know it, it's natural.
Which is, to that point, Nikki, I have to support your point on that. Like, the habits we form now, again, I can't stop reiterating that the habits we form now, we have to stick to the good habits that we form, and the bad habits that we've let go, we kind of have to let those go. We shouldn't bring those back into our lives. Because look where it led us. Let's go a different direction.
Yeah, we're a work in progress. So,
we're staying on the path. We'll stay on the path. We're not going to veer away from the path anymore. But at least now we're helping shape the path.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very small thing, but it matters. I can't explain it. I can't say that people will listen to us and people will say we're right or agree with us, but it feels right.
Yeah. And we're here to poke and provoke. So if you're annoyed, it's okay. I'm glad you're annoyed.
Actually, you know what? That it's funny that you said that because it's like a lot of people are so pushy and conscious these days about what you should be or shouldn't be doing in this pandemic. And I think there are clear things of what you shouldn't be doing, like don't go to your friend's house, especially if
of
you're.
course.
But there's very very little things to say that you should be doing,
True.
apart from like keeping yourself alive, right? And I think a lot of people just kind of fail to recognize that we are in such a
Super unique.
such a unique period of this world, this planet, this earth, this life. And no one creates the rules when it comes to what you make use of your time with. So yeah, that poke and provoke kind of deal. By all means, if you want to fucking learn how to bake sourdough bread,
Do it, man.
Have it.
Do it.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Man,
right?
if you want to be a porn star,
have at it, right? Have at it, right? We're in such a unique position right now that we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what next week's going to bring. We don't know what the next month is going to bring. But what we have control of is the right here and the right now.
Exactly.
And if in the right here and the right now, you have this, resounding feeling of like, I want to do this, I want to do that. If you don't listen to yourself doing that, it's either you're going to miss the chance or you're completely missing the point of life.
Exactly.
Right?
And if you don't know, if there's nothing gnawing in your brain, but you're scared of something, let's say you're scared to like sing, do it. Fear is a very good jump off point too. So don't make excuses. What you're scared of,
going to the quarantine centers.
What you're ashamed of, all that stuff.
I told you. I told you, Nikki. I called you that night, man.
Yeah.
I was scared.
It's okay to be scared, man.
But I volunteered.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. All right, man.
And I was one of the ones who. Yeah, that's it. Job.
I think we're good. Thanks so much, bro.
No, thank you for having me, guys. That was very eye-opening. I love talking to you guys. You guys know that already.
Of course, man.
Can I just say, before you close it up, it's so fucking surreal that we are having these kinds of conversations now. Because just 20 years ago, if you didn't do the math, guys, we've been friends for 20 years.
20 years, fuck.
It's 2020. We met in 2000. I mean, you met earlier.
People would not believe the conversations we're having now. They'll be like,
and if we asked each other 20 years ago, will we ever be, well, first of all, will we still be friends? But second of all,
I would not
ever have
say
conversations like this?
No.
We would never know. So it's absolutely surreal. And I take
we wouldn't
so much
have cared
pleasure
back then.
and honor to be able to share this experience with you guys. I just wanted you to know that.
Great.
Thank you, bro. No, same here, man.
Thanks.
So there was a beautiful
Same
conversation.
here,
We just made a time capsule.
Always great.
A time capsule, yeah.
It is a time capsule, seriously.
Yeah, it's a very small time capsule. We barely touched on stuff.
Yeah, I know. We'll get. You're gonna be a recurring guest. Don't worry.
Oh my god. Yeah.
You're gonna be Eddie Bravo of Joe Rogan.
Oh my god. Yeah, I actually know what you mean. Like, fuck. I got that.
All right. Cool.
So thanks for the opportunity, guys.
No, thanks too, man. Thanks too. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.